reentry will collect valuable data on the spacecraft flying through the Earth's atmosphere, and it's doing so at hypersonic speeds, or more than 5 times the speed of sound. Reentry is typically a portion of flight where we don't have communications with spacecraft because it's re-entering at or around orbital velocity, which is roughly 8 kilometers per second, or about 5 miles per second. So at those speeds, the spacecraft is moving through the atmosphere so fast that it creates a plasma field around the vehicle.
That blanket of plasma distorts communication frequencies, so it's not uncommon to experience brief blackouts in communication. Starship is designed to land on Mars where there are no runways or other humans to help out, which is exactly why we're testing this landing procedure that we're doing today. And we're doing these propulsive landings instead of more traditional means like parachutes, because propulsive landing, you heard that call out, flaps do have control of the vehicle. You can actually see one view, your screen moving around. That's actually a camera affixed to the flap. So as I was saying, we're testing these, doing these landings instead of more traditional means, so that way, propulsive landing, we can enable more rapid reusability.
Yeah. Now, we did just hear that call out. We should continue to hear some call outs as the ship makes its way back to Earth. Now, when we hear something called entry max heating, as well as entry max Q, that means that the ship has made it through the maximum heating and aerodynamic loads that it experiences as it returns. So, safe to say that if it makes it through those specific points, we're doing pretty well.
Okay,
that's right, so we'll continue to hear multiple callouts as we go through this phase. One of those callouts will be that the ship is transonic. We'll also hear another one when it's subsonic. Transonic will be referring to the period of flight where velocities of airflow surrounding and flowing past the vehicle are concurrently below, at, and above the speed of sound, so somewhere in the range of Mach 0.8 to 1.2. For reference, commercial jets have a range of cruising speeds, but most fly at roughly Mach 0.74, 0.85. Just for reference, that's between 480 miles per hour to 575 miles per hour, or 770 to 930 kilometers an hour. Subsonic, another call out that you'll hear later on in the stream, subsonic will refer to speeds that are much less than the speed of sound. So at this point in flight, the ship's velocity will be slowing down drastically. So with reentry well underway, we'll take another break and return just before the ship's landing burn, targeted for T plus 1 hour and 5 minutes.
Okay, so now I have time to talk for 15 minutes. What you want to look out for while you're watching these pictures is exactly this laminar flow of the plasma. That is perfect. That's exactly what you want. As soon as sparks start showing up, something is going wrong, because this is not an ablative heat shield, and SpaceX wants to rapidly reuse them, so there is nothing supposed to fall off the heat shield. As soon as you see some sort of spark, it means some material was taken off the Starship and flew away superheated as a little spark. So you do not want to see these sparks, and so far it looks amazing. It looks really, really good. It looks really, really good. I am very happy to see this. The vapor that you see there on the side is likely venting. They are venting excess fuel to only have the fuel that they need for the landing, because you want this to be as look at this. Beautiful. Nothing has fallen off. There is no heat tile that I could spot that is missing. They are slowly getting there. Slowly but steadily. There are some sparks at the engine bay down there. You see those? Now they're covered by the venting. But you can see some sparks at the engine bay. So there is likely something at the engine bay that is burning through. That is not okay. That's the kind of stuff you do not want to have, because if you want to reuse a Starship, it needs to come down undamaged, not a little damaged. You want it to come down undamaged. And so that's what you're looking out for. We saw a few in the engine bay just now, but nothing on the broader heat shield yet. Just laminar plasma flow, exactly what we want. You see the speed going down rapidly while the altitude stays still right now, meaning the ship, or almost still, meaning the ship isn't losing height, it's just losing speed, because it just ramming through the 67 kilometers is pretty dense atmosphere for a rocket moving at that speed. And so it's just ramming through it, taking away the energy that it built up during the launch. So it needs to shed all that energy that super heavy booster put into it to reach almost orbit. It needs to get rid of that on the way down, and that's what they're doing right now. Wow, it's getting better. Beautiful to see. And SpaceX still is the only launch provider in the world that can even give you these pictures. They are sponsored by Starlink. The Starship has two Starlink antennas facing leeward, meaning these antennas are looking through the plasma that is on the bottom engulfing the Starship, and those antennas are looking up, and that is why they can still keep contact. There's some sparks. That's why it can still keep contact to the Starlink network, because it's looking up through the hole in all that plasma, and that's what enables SpaceX to even give us these pictures. No one does this. Good to hear that Orion is going to have some Starlink lasers on board for some 4K footage. I was a little disappointed about the live stream. On the other hand, it's a difficult task. You see the tile team up there on the aero covers of the aft flaps. Nothing big though. I've seen a few sparks, but it's minimal. If you've been with this program for a while, you know that during the early re-entries, you saw so many sparks fly in. That is what is a counter indicator to traditional media. Already down 5,000 kilometers in speed. A few more little sparks there doing the aft flaps. Very, very nice. Yep. Yeah, for anybody who might have just joined us, we are looking at Starship Flight 13.
That's your picture is that lawyer, isn't it? What's his name? What's that lawyer's name? I recognize it though.
It helps us a lot. I know we content creators say this all the time, but that's the one thing you can do for free to make our life way, way easier. So please do so if you haven't done so yet. Consider becoming a channel member or a patron. Buy yourself a t-shirt if you want to support us. I couldn't be happier with what I'm seeing here, and I'm pretty sure, reading the chat the entire time almost, I see that there are a lot of happy people there right now. The only thing so far they didn't manage was the booster soft splashdown in the ocean. That was a little bit of a hard splashdown, and I thought about that earlier as well when I was taking my break, my 3-minute break. I was already speculating and thinking, as I always do, and I do think that this relight might have been connected to sloshing, to fuel supply to the engines, because that relight pattern looked so erratic. It almost looked like they turned on random engines. There were gaps in all sorts of places, and it was very, it was about half the engines they wanted to relight, and then it started fluctuating as well. So that might be related to fuel supply to the engines. That's, of course, it's a wild speculation, and it might very well be that SpaceX says something completely different, but I do not think that that was a Raptor engine reliability problem. It was too random, too many engines for that. I think it was something else. If it was something else, it is going to be a hard thing to fix, because that means they have to change the tank structure on the booster, do something so that these engines reliably get fuel when they're attempting the landing burn. We'll see though, we'll see. It stays absolutely interesting. Still nothing on the heat shield. Perfect condition. I have to not spot anything out of the ordinary. Yeah. Wow, look at the plasma on the catch points. You see that little triangle there on the upper left of SpaceX's screen? That is the catch little nose, basically, that is going to be used for catches in the future, and it is engulfed in plasma. 18,400 kilometers, rapidly going down now. And through the past 6,000 kilometers of shedded speed, it only lost 6 kilometers of height. So it's just skimming the atmosphere, forcing its way through, shedding as much energy as possible. And then you can already see the clouds down there passing by slowly. And some sparks. That was while the flaps were moving. That's funny. The forward flaps moved and we saw some sparks. That's interesting. That's the cloud coverage on the ground slowly becoming visible. And then during the later part of the re-entry, you can see it actually meaningfully shed altitude as well. When it's already slower, it starts going down. The flaps are gaining more and more control because the atmosphere is getting thicker and thicker, and so the movements actually control the ship more and more the denser the atmosphere gets. Still nothing on the tube that I could spot. I love the discoloration of the steel. It's the S40 decal there at top middle. You see these rainbow colors right above it, and that's because of the heat. Stainless steel starts turning, displaying rainbow colors when it gets hot. And it looks really stark. Impressive down the line. Here we go. So now you see how rapid the altitude goes down now? Tick, tick, tick. That's what I meant. That now we're in the later part of the re-entry. The heat shield still looks absolutely impressive. I cannot spot anything. I hope SpaceX is going to release some shots of the Starship as it splashes down, because that always gives us an excellent view of the heat shield as a condition. And SpaceX being that open with all of this is not the usual. 40.
Agora nós somos dito. Ito na! New Jollibee Burger Steaks Supreme! The success.
Kilometers, which is so faster than Maverick ever went. It's impressive. That is one of the reasons why I love this program so much, because it gives you so many things that are new, have never been done. You see the V-shape on and the left camera is internal struts, giving stability, and because the Starship is going through this pressure and this heat, the steel slightly deforms, as you can see, and that makes this internal strut visible. As I said, Starships that have done 50 flights are going to look very impressive. It's something to so look forward to. It's going to be really good. Here we go. Under 10,000 in speed, still 43 in height. Getting closer to the splashdown zone in the Indian Ocean. Still nothing out of the ordinary. So beautiful. Ship 40 so far has done a beautiful job. I'm wondering if there's some indentation in the hole there right under the payload door. Looks a little bit like a hole in the steel. But as said, that's because of all the forces working and all the heat. And there's too much relaxed so far. They've reached maximum pressure. So they're now from reaching maximum pressure in this case means they've reached the peak, and from here on the pressure on the ship is going to get less and less and less. Maximum heat was likely reached way before that. Here we go, 36 kilometers in height.